My roommate tried to steal my boyfriend while I was in the next room. We let her think it was working and gave her the worst night of her life. I moved in with a girl named Patrice because my coworker Addie vouched for her. Addie said she was clean and quiet and paid rent on time, and that was good enough for me because my last roommate left dishes in the sink for weeks, and I needed someone who understood basic hygiene. Patrice was great for the first 5 months. She kept her stuff on her side. She bought her own groceries. She never used my shampoo or left hair in the drain. We weren't best friends, but we were good roommates, and I thought that was enough. Then she met my boyfriend Theo. Theo and I had been together for 2 years before I moved in with her. He's the kind of guy who talks to everyone the same way. Cashiers, waiters, strangers on the bus. He's warm because that's just how he is. He came over one Friday to watch a movie, and Patrice was at the counter pouring water. He said hi and asked how her week was, and she told him about a problem at her job, and he listened and gave her advice, and that was it. Normal conversation, nothing more. But after Theo left that night, Patrice asked me how long we'd been together. I told her 2 years. She asked if it was serious. I said yes. She asked if he had any single friends. I told her I'd ask. That should have been the end of it. The next time Theo came over, Patrice came out of her room in a full face of makeup and an outfit she usually wore to go out. She sat in the living room while we were watching a movie and started talking to him about a show she thought he'd like. She was leaning forward in the chair across from us and laughing at everything he said, even when he wasn't being funny. Theo didn't notice. He just thinks people are friendly. I noticed. The following week, Theo came over to help me fix a shelf in my room. Patrice knocked on my door and asked Theo if he could look at a loose handle on her dresser. He said sure and went to her room, and she closed the door behind them. Not all the way, just enough that I'd notice. I pushed the door open and she was standing next to him pointing at the handle, and her shoulder was pressed against his arm. The handle wasn't loose. I checked it after he fixed it and it turned just fine. That night I told Theo what I was seeing. The outfits, the laughing, the fake handle, the closed door. He said he hadn't picked up on any of it and he believed me completely. He asked what I wanted to do. I told him I wanted to see how far she'd go. He said he was in. The next Friday, Theo came over and I told Patrice I had to run out for something. I went to my car and sat there with the engine off, watching the windows of my own apartment from the parking lot. Theo stayed on the couch. Within 4 minutes, Patrice came out of her room and sat next to him, not across from him, next to him. She asked if I made him happy. He said yes. She asked if he ever thought about being with someone else. He told her no. She told him he deserved someone who paid more attention to him. She said I was always busy and distracted and that she noticed how I sometimes brushed him off when he was over. None of that was true either, but she said it like she'd been collecting evidence for weeks. She told him she felt a connection with him from the first time they met. She said she knew it was complicated because of me, but she thought he felt it too. He said he needed to think about it. She put her hand on his knee and told him there was no rush. Over the next 2 weeks, Theo and I set the stage. Every time he came over, I'd pretend to get a work call and leave the room. Patrice would appear within minutes. She started texting him during the week. She told him she couldn't stop thinking about him. She asked him to meet her for coffee without telling me. He agreed to everything and told me everything. She got sloppy. She told her friend Margot on a phone call by the front counter that she was about to take my boyfriend and that I had no idea. She said I was boring and that Theo needed someone with more energy. She said once Theo left me, she'd make sure everyone knew he chose her. This wasn't a crush. She wanted to humiliate me. That's when we decided to end it. I planned a small get-together. I invited Addie. I invited Margot because I wanted Patrice's own friend in the room. I invited my friend Bev and Theo's friend Walt. 8 people, including the 3 of us. Patrice dressed up like she always did when Theo came over. She positioned herself near him the whole night. She touched his arm. She whispered to him when I walked away. She was performing for a room full of people she thought didn't know. But everyone there except Margot knew exactly what was happening because I told them. Then I did the thing Patrice never expected. I walked up to Theo in front of everyone and kissed him. Not a quick peck, a real kiss. The kind that says this is mine and you don't get to look away. I felt her eyes burn into my back the second my lips touched his. Theo squeezed my hand and I turned around to face the room. Patrice was frozen on the couch with a glass of wine halfway to her mouth. Her face had this expression I'd never seen on her before. Like the floor under her chair had just become unstable and she was trying to figure out if she could still trust her own balance. The whole room had gone quiet. Even the music in the background sounded smaller. I kept my voice light, like I was making a toast. I just want to say how lucky I am to have someone like Theo. 2 years and he's never given me a single reason to doubt him. I held eye contact with Patrice when I said it. Bev raised her glass from the corner. Walt nodded slowly. Addie smiled, but her eyes were locked on Patrice like she was already putting pieces together. Patrice forced a tight smile that didn't reach her eyes and said, "That's really sweet." Her voice came out thin. Then Theo made his move. He walked over and sat down right next to Patrice on the couch. She looked at him with a tiny spark of confusion because this wasn't how the night was supposed to go. He pulled out his phone. "Hey Patrice, I want to show you something." She leaned in like she thought it was going to be good for her. He turned the screen so the whole room could see it. It was the text thread between them. He scrolled to a specific message and read it out loud. "I can't stop thinking about you. She doesn't deserve you. Meet me for coffee Tuesday and don't tell her." Patrice's face went white. Not pink, not red, white. She set her wine down on the table so hard I thought it might crack. "That's taken out of context," she said, and her voice was shaking. I kept my voice calm. "What context makes that okay?" She didn't answer. She looked at Bev, and Bev crossed her arms and stared right back. She looked at Walt, and Walt shook his head slowly. She looked at Addie, and that's where things got really bad for her because Addie looked like she'd been punched. Addie said, "Patrice, tell me that's not real." Her voice cracked on the last word. Patrice tried to recover. "It was a joke. We were just messing around. Theo wasn't playing anymore. You told me you felt a connection with me from the first night. You put your hand on my knee. That wasn't a joke." Patrice's mouth opened and closed. Then she shifted tactics. She let out a laugh that was louder than it needed to be. "Okay, so I flirted a little. It's not a crime. He's attractive. Sue me." She was trying to shrink it, and for a second I felt the energy in the room dip, like maybe people weren't sure. Then Margot spoke. She was Patrice's friend. She wasn't in on the plan. She'd thought she was at a normal party. "Wait, what's going on? Patrice, what are they talking about?" And I saw it happen in real time. Patrice saw the opening. She turned to Margot with this hurt look on her face. "They're ganging up on me over nothing, Margot. You know me. I would never actually do that." Margot looked at Patrice and then at me, and then back at Patrice. There was a flicker of doubt in the room. This was the moment I'd been waiting for. This was why I invited Margot. I kept my voice even. Margot, Patrice told you on a phone call by our counter that she was going to take my boyfriend and that I had no idea. She called me boring. She said once Theo left me, she'd make sure everyone knew he chose her. Do you remember that conversation? The room got so quiet I could hear ice settling in someone's glass. Margot's mouth fell open. She looked at Patrice. Patrice's composure cracked. I never said that. Her voice came out small. Margot looked at her for a long time. Then she said slowly, you did say that. I thought you were venting. I didn't think you meant it. Patrice stared at Margot like she'd been slapped. The one person she thought she could count on had just confirmed everything. I wasn't done. What really got under my skin was what she said about me. That I was boring. That I didn't deserve Theo. That she wanted everyone to know he chose her over me. She didn't just want my boyfriend. She wanted to destroy me on the way out. So I had one more thing planned. I walked over to the front counter where I'd left my phone earlier. I picked it up and turned back to the room. I want to play something. I looked right at Patrice. Patrice, you remember 3 nights ago when Theo was over and I left to take a work call? She didn't answer. I told the room the truth. I hadn't left the apartment that night. I'd walked down the hall and sat on the edge of my bed with the door cracked open and I'd hit record on my phone. I tapped play. The audio was muffled at first. You could hear the sound of the TV in the background and someone shifting on the couch. Then Patrice's voice came through. She doesn't appreciate you. I see the way she brushes you off. You deserve someone who actually wants to be around you. Her voice on the recording sounded different, confident, practiced, like she'd rehearsed every line in front of a mirror. Theo's voice came through, calm and flat, exactly the way we'd planned. You think so? And Patrice again, almost excited now. I know so, and I think you know it too. You just need someone to say it out loud. I watched Patrice's face while her own voice played back to her. She looked like she was going to be sick. Her hands were gripping the edge of the couch cushion so hard her knuckles were going pale. The audio kept going. Patrice told Theo I'd been talking about him behind his back. She said I told her I was getting bored of the relationship. She said I was thinking about whether I even wanted to be with him anymore. None of it was true. I'd never said a single word like that to anyone. Not to Patrice, not to Addie, not to Bev. She'd invented it from nothing because she needed Theo to believe I didn't care so she could slide in. The audio finished and I set my phone on the counter. The room felt smaller somehow, like the walls had moved in 2 inches while we weren't paying attention. Theo looked at Patrice and his face was serious in a way I almost never see. You made that up. She never said she was bored of me. I asked her about it after you said it and she had no idea what I was talking about. Patrice swallowed hard. I was just repeating what I heard. I almost laughed. From who? Because I live here and I never said a word like that to anyone. She didn't answer because there was no answer. Addie stood up. Her face was red and her hands were balled at her sides. I vouched for you, Patrice. I told her you were a good person. I put my name on the line for you. Patrice's face hardened. Don't act like you're some saint, Addie. You barely even know me. Addie stared at her for a beat and said one word, clearly. Then Walt pushed off the wall. His voice was low and firm. Theo showed me those texts 2 weeks ago. I told him to go to the police because it felt like harassment. He said no because he wanted to handle it this way. You should be grateful he gave you this instead. Patrice scoffed. Harassment? I sent a few flirty texts. Walt didn't blink. You told him to leave his girlfriend. You made up lies about her. You planned to publicly humiliate her. That's not flirty. That's obsessive. Patrice flinched like the word hit her in the chest. Margot turned to her. Why did you tell me you were going to make sure everyone knew Theo chose you? That's not venting. That's a plan. You had a plan to hurt her. Patrice's eyes filled with tears, but those weren't sorry tears. Those were angry tears. The tears of someone who got caught. She looked around the room and said, you're all sitting here acting like I'm some monster. All I did was tell a guy how I felt. I kept my voice steady. You didn't just tell him how you felt. You lied about me to his face to make him doubt me. That's not a confession. That's a campaign. Patrice stood up from the couch. The tears stopped like she'd flipped a switch. She pointed her finger at me. You think you're so clever, don't you? Setting this whole thing up, recording me without my permission, inviting all these people here to watch me get humiliated. You're not the victim here. You're the bully. She turned on Margot. And you just turned on me like it was nothing. Some friend you are. Margot didn't flinch. Don't put this on me. I didn't know what you were doing. Patrice grabbed her purse and pulled out her phone. She held it up. Fine. You want to play recordings? I have things too. I felt a flash of cold run through me. Theo and I looked at each other and for a second neither of us was sure what was about to happen. She found what she was looking for and held the phone up. A text from Theo. Hey, thanks for listening tonight. I appreciate you being there. See? He came to me. He wanted to talk to me. Does that sound like a guy who was being played? She looked at me with a small smile. Theo didn't let it breathe. That was part of the plan. She knows about every single message I sent you because I showed her before I hit send. The smile fell off Patrice's face. Every message? Theo said. Every single one. Patrice looked at me. I nodded once. I wanted her to understand there was never a single moment where she had him. Patrice let out a sound between a laugh and a gasp. So this whole time both of you were playing me. This whole time. I looked at her. You were playing me first, Patrice. We just played back. She tried again. You could have just told me to stop. Instead, you turned it into this circus. That's when Bev spoke. She'd been quiet near the bookshelf the entire night. She shouldn't have had to tell you to stop. You shouldn't have started. Patrice whipped her head toward her. Who even are you? I barely know you. Why are you in my apartment? Bev didn't change her expression. It's her apartment too, and I'm her friend, which is more than you ever were. Patrice scanned the room like she was doing math in her head, looking for anyone left. Her eyes landed on Margot. Margot, let's go. I'm not staying here to be humiliated by people I don't even care about. Margot didn't move. Margot, let's go. Margot looked up. I think I'm going to stay for a bit. I think I need to hear the rest of this. Patrice stared at her for a long time. Then her purse dropped out of her hands and hit the floor, and she sat back down on the couch and started crying. Not the angry tears, real sobs. She covered her face. The room went completely silent. I had my final words ready. I'd been thinking about them for days, but standing there watching her sob, I hesitated. Patrice spoke through her hands. You don't know what it's like. You have someone who loves you. You have people who show up for you. I have nobody. She wiped her nose. My last relationship ended because he cheated on me. I moved here because I had nowhere else to go. When I met Theo, he was the first person in months who was actually nice to me. I know what I did was wrong. I know, but I'm so tired of being alone. The room shifted. wanted. I could feel the doubt creeping in. Not doubt about what she did. Doubt about whether we'd pushed too hard. I could see it on Addie's face. I could see Margot watching me, waiting to see what I would do. Theo squeezed my hand. Then I caught Bev's eye across the room and she gave me a small, firm shake of her head. Just enough for me to catch. Don't fall for it. I took a long breath. I reminded myself who Patrice actually was. Not this version. Not the crying version sitting on my couch with smeared makeup and shaking hands. The other version. The version who put her hand on my boyfriend's knee and told him I didn't appreciate him. The version who invented words I never spoke just to make him doubt me. The version who called Margot and bragged about how she was going to take him and how I was too boring to stop her. The version who said she wanted everyone to know Theo chose her over me. That version wasn't crying. That version was smiling. That version was having the time of her life. This was just another play. Maybe the pain was real. Maybe she really had been cheated on. Maybe she really was lonely. I don't know. But being lonely doesn't make you lie about someone to their boyfriend's face. Being lonely doesn't give you the right to try to break apart a 2-year relationship because you decided you wanted what someone else had. Sympathy was the trap she'd been setting her whole life, and I could feel the pull of it in the room. The way everyone wanted to feel bad for her because it's easier than staying angry. I wasn't going to let it work. Not tonight. I kept my voice calm. Patrice, I'm sorry you've been through hard things. I really am. I meant that part. But you didn't just have a crush on my boyfriend. You lied about me. You told him I talked about him behind his back. You made up things I never said so he would doubt me. You told Margot you were going to humiliate me. That's not loneliness. That's cruelty. She kept crying, but her body went still between sobs. And the reason you're alone in this room right now isn't because people are mean to you. It's because the second people see who you really are, they don't want to stay. Patrice looked up. Her makeup was streaked. Her voice came out quiet. So what now? You got what you wanted. Everyone hates me. Are you happy? I shook my head. I didn't want this, Patrice. I wanted a roommate who respected me. You took that off the table the first time you lied about me to my boyfriend's face. She stood up slowly. She looked around the room one more time. Margot didn't speak. Addie stared at the floor. Walt stood with his arms crossed. Bev met her eyes but didn't move. Theo was still holding my hand. Nobody moved toward her. I said it simply. Patrice, I need you to move out. I'll give you 2 weeks. That's more than fair. She blinked. You can't just kick me out. Our lease allows either of us to give 30 days notice. I'm giving you 2 weeks because I'm being generous. After everything you did, I could make this harder. I'm choosing not to. She looked at Addie like a lifeline. Addie said, don't look at me. I can't help you with this. Then Margot stood up. Patrice, I'll help you find a place. But I need you to know something. What you did wasn't okay. The way you talked about her behind her back, calling her boring, saying you'd make sure people knew Theo chose you. That wasn't venting. You were using me as your audience, and I don't want to be that anymore. Patrice's voice was small. So you're done with me too? Margot's expression softened just a fraction. I'm not done with you, but I'm done pretending the things you do are normal. Patrice picked up her purse and turned toward the hallway. She got halfway down and stopped. She turned around. For what it's worth, I didn't think it would go this far. I thought if he liked me back, it would just happen naturally, and it wouldn't be anyone's fault. I looked at her. But he didn't like you back, Patrice. He never did. And instead of accepting that, you tried to tear apart something real. That's the part you need to sit with. She opened her mouth, then she closed it. She turned and walked the rest of the way down the hall, and her bedroom door clicked shut. Quiet and final. The room was still for a long moment after that. Nobody rushed to fill the silence. Nobody cracked a joke or let out a big breath. We all just stood there with the sound of the fridge humming somewhere, and the porch light still on outside, and the leftover food on the counter that nobody had touched in the last half hour. Addie's voice came out small. I'm so sorry I brought her into your life. I shook my head. You didn't know. None of us did. That's the thing about people like Patrice. They're perfect until they decide you have something they want. I meant that. Addie didn't do anything wrong. She'd introduced me to someone she thought was a good person, and for 5 months that person had been a good person. You can't blame someone for not seeing a mask that wasn't ready to come off yet. Theo pulled me closer and kissed the top of my head. She never even came close. I locked the front door and turned off the porch light, and the entryway went dark, and the room felt warmer somehow. Smaller in a good way. Like it had finally shrunk back down to the right size. For the first time in months, my apartment felt like it belonged to me again. Not to the version of me who was always watching, always listening, always wondering what Patrice was doing or saying behind my back. Just me, in my home, with people who actually cared about me. Patrice moved out 9 days later. She packed her stuff while I was at work and left the key on the counter. No note, no apology, no final conversation. She never contacted Theo again either. Not a text, not a call, not a like on a photo, nothing. Some people don't learn the lesson. They just learn to stay away from the person who taught it.